Okay, sure. Okay, we have talked about XML and we have talked an evolution of HTML and other core web technologies, right? So as a part of our sessions, we'll cover HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and some JavaScript libraries. Okay. Um, so so we know what is an XML document. XML document is nothing but set of elements. Okay. So now we have this HTML document that we'll create, which basically contains a structure. So let's talk about what are the different elements that makes up a HTML document. Okay. So the first part of your HTML document is called doc type. Okay. So the doc type of your HTML document tells your browser what version of HTML you are using, whether you are using HTML4 or HTML5. So it's an instruction. And doc type is, even though you don't put doc type, your document will work fine in the browser, but your browser assumes it, okay, that you are using one of those versions. But it's always a good practice to tell browser what version of HTML you are using. Okay, you do that with your doc type element of your HTML document. Okay, let me show you the doc type element that we have here. Here is your doc type. Okay, doc type HTML. This is the doc type for your HTML5. Okay, now let me show you the doc type for HTML4. HTML4 doc type. Your HTML4 doc type basically have your DTD declaration. Here it is. Here is my doc type for my HTML4 document. I don't know if you can see that well. It's http w3.org tr html4 strict.dtd. Okay, let me see if I can find a better website. I think it's not. Okay, let's take a look at W3 schools. Yeah, this is your HTML5 doc type. Let's see if we have the doc type for HTML4. Here it is. HTML4 doc type. Okay, if you see it, then you have your .dtt declaration. Your DTD is document type definition. It contains all the rules that we have for your HTML4 specification. Okay, so here if you see your HTML4 has multiple DTDs. One is a strict DTD. The second one is a loose DTD. Your strict DTD basically means it does not have any kind of deprecated features. So I don't know if you know what deprecated means. The word means deprecated means that okay, the functionality was there in previous versions. You delete that functionality. I mean, you don't support that functionality anymore. So that's what is deprecated means. You will hear this word even in your Java side of it. For example, you have a library that you are using with version 1. So when version 2 comes out, so some of the functionalities may not be supported. Okay, or might have been rewritten in a different format. So they, instead of removing them, they will mark them as deprecated. Okay, your strict DTD does not have any deprecated stuff. Your loose DTD basically can have some deprecated stuff that if you wanted to just play around and see, how they work. That's your loose DTD. We also have frameset DTD. Your frameset DTD basically can be used to build your application as frames. So one frame basically have the pages are defined as frames basically. So that's what is your frameset. But you will not be using your frameset and transitional. If you are working with HTML4, you will be using strict DTD. Okay. So let's move on. That's your doc type declaration of your HTML document. Okay. And then you open your HTML document and then you close your HTML document. Okay. That's your starting element of your HTML, and you close it with end of HTML. Okay. And there are two important sections of your HTML document. One is your head section, and the second one is your body section of your HTML document. Okay, HTML head and body. Okay, in your head section, if you see the first element of your HTML head section is your title. The title of your HTML document. You can put it. Basically gives a little more information of what this page is. For example, it's like a order placing page. You can, or customer page. You can say customer page. I'll tell you what will happen if you just see this title element in your browser. Let me show you. In order to run this HTML, so you just have to click on this, whatever that boomerang icon that would basically take you to your browser. So before I do that, let me comment out some stuff that I have here. Let's click on that icon. Welcome to live preview. I'm going to click on OK. Visit opens a browser. Your brackets IDE comes up with a web server that'll let you run your applications on your browser. I don't know, you cannot see much on the body of it, but if you can see here first HTML, that's your title of your HTML document. Okay, you see I hover on it, it'll also show me that okay, it's first HTML. Okay, that's basically is your title tag. The next one is your meta tag, meta tags. Your meta tags basically describe more information about your HTML document, and these meta tags are generally used when your search engine searches for your pages. Okay, like Google is searching, when you put some text, your search engine actually tries to search all the documents matching that content. So this is some of the content that you can provide using the meta tag. Here the meta tag basically says, like, meta tag basically contains two properties, the name and the content. It's like key value pairs. You can say the name is author, content is my name equal to company, content is this. And here this is a very important one, where it's basically telling your browser that the content type that we have here is text HTML, and it uses an encoding called charset, which is UTF-8 encoding. Okay, you can read about what UTF-8 encoding is. Your charset means it's a set of characters that are defined in an UTF-8 format.
Version of what? Search. Okay, and then you have your script. If you see like the script tag here, the script tag here is where you write your JavaScript. Okay, so there are a couple of different ways to write your JavaScript. So one is you can write the JavaScript inside the HTML document, or you can write it in a separate file. Okay, if you write it inline, this is how you do it. You specify script type equal to text JavaScript, and then you write. Okay, here I just wrote a small alert, like alert, hello there. Okay, or if you wanted to write it in an external document, like here if you see I created a file with an extension .js, index.js. I don't know if you can see that well. Your index.js basically contains another alert. Okay, your alert is actually a function
in your browser, which opens a pop-up like this. You see, I got hello there from index.js. Okay, and I got my page. Okay, one of the cool thing about your brackets, when you save it, it will refresh your browser automatically. You don't have to do a manual refresh. Okay, that's your script tags. Okay, and the next one is your style tag. Your style tag basically defines the styles for your elements. We'll talk more about styles later when we are talking about CSS. For now, let's take a look at what this is doing. So P here stands for paragraph. Okay, so you open your curly brace and close your curly brace, and this is your style rule. It's telling that the color is red. That means the paragraph color is red. So here if you see, I have a corresponding P element, which is my paragraph. P here stands for paragraph, and the content here would be red. My first HTML document, my first HTML document. Okay, so it is applicable for all the paragraphs. Okay, understood? And here is another style which says like the background color is green. So if you see here, I have a dot here. Dot here basically represents a class. So here if you see, I have, so this is another way to apply styles to multiple HTML elements. Here I have class equal to test and class equal to test. And I have dot text, which is having a style rule of background color green. So the background color of these two paragraphs is green. Okay, and then here, sure. Yeah, we can do that with ID as well. So these are called CSS selectors. So this one is a simple selector. So this one is a class selector. So we have ID selector. So we have like various types of selectors, which we'll talk about later when we are talking about CSS. And then here I have a link. This is my link tag. Link tag is used to basically include your CSS files. The same way I have a script tag to include your JavaScript files. Your link tag is used to include your CSS files, your cascading style sheets. Okay, here the rel basically stands for your relationship. It's basically telling that, okay, the relationship of this document, the CSS file, to this particular HTML document is style sheet. Okay, type is text CSS. href basically attribute defines like where your CSS file is located, the path to your CSS file. Here it's saying index.css. Here I have index.css, which contains a paragraph with font weight set to bold. So I wanted to say bolder text on my browser. Okay, and this is your head section of your HTML document. So these are some of the elements that you can have inside your head document. And then we have body. Your body again contains your paragraph, the body of your HTML document. Here I have two paragraphs, and then this is the content of your paragraph. My first HTML document, my first HTML document. Okay, so your body basically defines the body of your HTML document. Your head defines your head section of your HTML document, which includes your meta information, the title, any CSS files or any styles that you wanted to define, any JavaScript files or any inline JavaScript that you wanted to define. You define them in your head section. Okay, so we also have a base tag here, which I have commented out. So this is how you comment your code inside your HTML document. Exclamation followed by 2 dashes with your less than symbol, and then we have 2 dashes with your greater than symbol closest to your comment inside your HTML document. The same way you have seen the comments, right? In the morning, we have 3 types of commenting in Java. So we have 1 type of commenting here in HTML. Okay, so that's how you comment your HTML snippets that you don't want your browser, you are telling browser to ignore it. Okay, so here we have something called base tag. So what this base tag actually tells is, your base tag is telling your HTML document, so whatever is followed after this base tag, look for the resources on that particular server. For example, here I have base href equal to google.com, right? And then here I have href equal to index.css. When your browser sees this, okay, then it will set the base as google.com. Okay, I need to go and find index.css from google.com. So it's going to ignore your index.css file which exists locally, and then will fall back on your google.com to find the CSS file. So obviously it will not be there. You'll see an error on the page. Okay, we'll take a look at that. So let's change this. Green is pretty bad. Let's put maybe gray, light gray or something. Okay, let's view the other sections of your HTML page. That's much better. Hello there from index.js. So here is your document. I don't know if you can see that well. It says my first HTML document, my first HTML document. Okay, now let me show you another important tool when you're working on web applications. You need to open your developer tools. You go to more tools, then you open your developer tools. Your developer tools are your friend when troubleshooting any issues related to your web applications. It tells you exactly what kind of requests that are going out, what kind of responses that are coming in. You can view all of that stuff inside your developer tools. Okay, so if you click on F12 on your browser, that also will open this automatically instead of going to your menu options. And if you see, I got an error here, cross and 1. That's I have one error. So let me click on that and see what is going on. You see, get www.google.com/index.css. Okay, it tried to get these index.css from Google website and it failed because I have my base tag set to my index.mygoogle.com. Okay, that's your base tag usage. Okay, we'll talk about more of these developer tools later, but this is a very handy tool to see what is going on. Okay, so if you wanted to like for example, I wanted to inspect this element, my first HTML document, that paragraph that I have here. You can just select this, click on this, and you can select that. It tells you exactly what paragraph is rendering that particular content. So it's very handy tool. Okay, it will help you to debug your JavaScript code, and you can also view the sources that are used for your HTML document. You see index.html, index.js. You can see the content as well here. This is your HTML document. This is your JavaScript file. Okay, understood? So let me close this one away. If you see, here is options for breakpoints and other stuff. I'll show you how to debug your JavaScript code when we are talking about JavaScript. Okay, understood your developer tools. It can help you perform your performance analysis on your application, like profiling your websites to see like what is happening. Okay, whether you can, is there any way that I can improve performance of your web application? Your developer tools provides various ways. Okay, so that's your developer tools. And if I just remove this base href by commenting it out, and it will try to load it from index.css file, which contains your font weight as bold. It will show a bolder text. Hello there. Okay, now it shows a little bolder text compared to your lighter text like we have seen. Okay, understood? Your head section of your HTML document, your title, meta, script, style, link, and base. Okay, so now let's talk about your ID and class attribute of your HTML document. Okay, so as I said, in an XML element we can have attributes. So the way you define your ID and class using your attributes of your elements. So each and every element in your HTML document will have these attributes. Okay, ID and class. Okay, your ID should be unique. If I have a paragraph with ID doc, I cannot have another paragraph or another element inside this document with the same ID. Your ID should be unique. Very important. Okay, but you can have class attribute, the value can be same across multiple elements, because if you wanted to apply the same style across multiple elements, you can use your class attribute to do that. Okay, and whatever is here defines the content of your document. Okay, understood your ID and class? Your ID and class are very, very important. ID should be unique. Alrighty, moving on. And I have already showed you how to comment out your HTML code. Now let's talk about your body tag. So inside your body tags, you can basically have, so there are like these categorization of your different HTML elements. The first one is your headings. Okay, so you wanted to define a heading for your web application that you are trying to develop. So when you open your web page, you wanted to see something tells about, okay, this is like Amazon or something like eBay or something like that. Okay, so you can use your headings to actually define the headings for your HTML document. In your headings, you have something like H1 to H6, H1 being the biggest heading, H6 being the smaller heading. Okay, so let me show you how they actually look. Like I'm going to say file open folder and you go to headings. So this is my headings HTML file. I have a head section and I have a body section which contains my H1 to H6, H1, H2, H3, H4, H5 and H6. Okay, let's open that in your browser to see how they actually look. Okay, so that is how they actually look. If you see, H1 heading is a bigger heading. It's a little bold as well. H2, H3, H4, H5 and H6. H6 being the smaller one. So you generally don't use multiple H1s in a single page. Okay, I mean your browser does not stop you from doing it, but that's one of the convention that we follow. Alrighty, so that's your headings, H1 to H6. Okay, your H1 is a main heading and H2 to H6 are your subheadings to define the sections of your document, different sections of your document. Okay, the next elements are your text elements. Your text elements is where you render your text. Okay, like the paragraphs and all the other elements that we will see. Your text elements are categorized into two types. One is your block elements. The second one is your inline elements. Okay, so this is one of the popular interview question as well. So people ask, what is the difference between a block element and an inline element? Okay, your block element basically are rendered one below each other. Okay, so if I put one of the example of your block level element is paragraph. If you see, we have seen two paragraphs, right? So they does not appear on the same line. The content does not appear on the same line. The content actually appears one below the other in the previous example that we have seen, correct? That my first HTML document, below that we have my first HTML document. Okay, it basically gives your line a new line. Okay, the content is rendered on a new line. Two of the commonly ones that we use is your div. Div stands for your division. P stands for your paragraph. Okay, div and your paragraph. And then we have your inline elements. Your inline elements is where the elements appear one next to each other. Okay, span is a very good example and your anchor is a very good example. Anchor is used to render links on your browser, but if you have two anchors, they will appear one right next to each other. If you have two spans, they will appear right next to each other. So let me show you an example. I'm going to say file open folder. Okay, so here is an example where I have two divs. Okay, I have two spans and I have other stuff here. Okay, and another important thing that you have to know, you can have inline elements inside a block level element. That is perfectly fine. But you cannot have a block level element inside an inline element. I cannot put a div inside a span. Very important. Okay, I cannot put a div inside a span. Okay, you cannot put a block level element inside an inline element. Okay, so whereas a block level element can have other block level elements, as well as a number of inline elements. Okay, but your paragraph, so we have this paragraph is another block level element, right? But this paragraph element cannot have a div element. So that's a special case, okay, that you have to remember. Paragraph element cannot have div as a child. Okay, whereas a div can have another div, a paragraph can have another paragraph, that's perfectly fine. A paragraph can have span, that's perfectly fine. Okay, if I have two spans, the content will appear right next to each other. When I have two divs, they appear one below each other. Because these are your block level elements, these are your inline elements. Okay, let's render this page on the browser to see what is happening. Okay, if you see, this is my first block level element, this is my second block level element, this is my first inline element, this is my second inline element. If you see, these two appear right next to each other because those are two spans, which is your inline elements. Okay, so here I am located inside a block level element, which is your span, which is present inside a div. Okay, and I have two paragraphs which appear right below each other. It is your paragraph. This is the first paragraph and this is your second paragraph. Okay, understood? Your inline elements and block level elements. So these are very important. Div and span. People ask, can I put a div inside a span? So you should know that because span is an inline element. You cannot put a block level element inside. Alrighty, moving on. So the next one is your white space and text breaking. Okay, so whenever you write your some content here inside your HTML document, for example, here let's say I add some space here, something like this. Okay, this is my first block level element. You just save it and see what happens inside your browser. If you see, your browser kind of ignores it. Okay, because it does not, I mean, it treats that, okay, no, there is no space there, it will just render normally. Okay, but in some cases maybe you wanted to have some spacing in between. Okay, there are different ways to do it. So one is you can use pre-formatting. So we can use a tag called pre-tag that we can use. So let me show you. I think it should be somewhere here, I guess. Okay, here it is. Pre here stands for pre-formatting tag. Pre. This is a pre-formatted text. If you see, there is some lot of space in here, right? So when I render this on the browser, you will see the spaces as well because you need to enclose that inside your pre-tag. When your browser sees the pre-tag, then it renders as is. Okay, it thinks, okay, this is a pre-formatted text, I just have to take it and just have to render it on the browser. Okay, so let's run that to see how it actually looks. Okay, here it is. This space is a pre-formatted space text. Pre basically is your pre-formatted text. Okay, if you see on the bottom and the bottom on the top of this particular pre-formatted text, you have seen some lines, correct? Lines here, line on the top, line on the bottom. So these two lines are rendered on your browser because we used a horizontal rule tag, HR tag. Okay, HR is your horizontal rules. Okay, it will basically draw a line on your browser. Yeah, that's non-breaking space. I will talk about that. Okay, we also have here BR tag. BR tag basically is your break tag. It will basically move the content downwards. For example, earlier we have seen two spans. They appear inline, right next to each other. But if you want your second span to go to a next line, you can use a break tag. If you see, break it's a self-closing tag. You have if you slash greater than towards the end, opening and closing at the same time. You don't put any content inside your break tag. Whenever your browser sees the break tag, it knows that, okay, I need to take this to a new line. Okay, that's your break tag. So if you go back to the browser, you should see those two rendered on a different line. This is my first inline element. This is my second inline element. Make sense? That's your break tag. Okay, let's take a look at the other ones that we have. Okay, we have seen the white space break and horizontal rule tags. Okay, the next one is your character entities. Your character entities are a little different ones. For example, we have seen our HTML document where we have these symbols here, right? So there's a less than symbol and a greater than symbol. Okay, but if I wanted to render some text on the browser which contains this symbol, but your HTML thinks like, okay, this means it knows that, okay, when it sees less than, that means it's an opening of a tag. When it sees greater than, it knows that it is a closing of a tag. So it does not know that. So what we can do is, if you wanted to render less than and greater than symbol on your browser, your HTML provides something called character entities. You can use character entities to leverage that functionality. So let's take a look at that here. Okay, here I have in HTML4 so for example, here I wanted to type this. I want to render this on my browser. So here I have ampersand, less than, followed by semicolon. The same content I have doc type, ampersand, greater than, semicolon. Okay, so these are called character entities. Okay, so you just wanted to render it on the browser. I think it must have already been rendered. Here it is. I don't know if you can see that well. Okay, less than, exclamation, and you have your greater than. Okay, so that's how you render those on your browser. Okay, the next character entity, we have like various of them, like copyrights, copy, all of that. We have various character entities that we can use. I just showed you a couple of examples. Okay, the next one is your NBSP. Your NBSP basically stands for your non-breaking space. Your non-breaking space is a way to tell your browser, okay, whenever you reach towards the end of the line, don't break my sentence. Okay, I need to render these two words without any breakage. So that way, that it will arrange your lines accordingly. That's what is your non-breaking space. Okay, let's take a look at that. I think I should have that somewhere. I think I don't have an example for that, I guess. Okay, let me show you that maybe in W3 schools, I guess. NBSP W3 schools. And your W3 schools is a very good resource to learn HTML. Non-breaking white space. Yeah, there is no example for it as well. So these are all various other character entities that you can use. Okay, less than, greater than, ampersand, quotations, all of that stuff. Yeah, I'll show you an example tomorrow. Don't worry about that particular entity. Okay, we also have other text elements that we can use. So we have superscript and subscript elements. Citation, cite element gives you the cite work by another. We have abbreviations, we have acronyms. M basically is your emphasis tags. Strong basically defines your a little bolder text. You have your code tag. Basically, if you wanted to show some Java code or a .NET code on your browser, you can enclose them inside your code tag. So what it does is it will retain the formatting. The same. It basically shows a different format. I'll show you that in an example. We also have other tags like KBD is your keyboard input tag. Code variables, var can be used to define code variables. Block code basically is a block level or inline code. Okay, Q basically is another code tag. So let's take some of these stuff on a HTML document to see how they actually look. Okay, here it is. Okay, here is your abbreviation ABBR. Here I have HTML, so I abbreviated it, hypertext markup language. So when you have a title attribute for your HTML document, what will happen is it will come when you hover on this HTML, it's going to show a little pop-up box with this value. So let me show you that here. Okay, if I just hover on it, if you see it says hypertext markup language, that's your abbreviation that's coming because of your title attribute. And if you see this is your code, I don't know if you can see that well, employee e.name equal to Ravi. Okay, if you see the formatting is a little different, so the the text formatting here looks very similar to your Eclipse code that you see in your Eclipse. So by looking at it, I would know that, okay, it's a code. Okay, let's take a look at the other elements that we have here. And this is your acronym. Okay, you specify doc type as document type. Is your M tag is your emphasis tag. Your strong basically shows that in a bolder text. Let's take a look at that as well. HTML 4.01. If you see here, it shows in bolder. Okay, so let's remove that bolder and you can see that emphasis tag as well. Strong. Okay, now if you see, it shows in a little italic format. It has a little curvy nature for your text. That's your emphasis tag. That's what it does. Your strong basically makes that to a bolder text, strong text. Okay, and let's see the other ones that I have here. I have already talked about code. You wanted to show some code, you enclose that inside a code element. And then you have your block quote. Your block quote is an interesting one. If you wanted to have some quotation that you wanted to put on your website, you can enclose that in a block quote. It gives a little indent. It leaves some space here. You see, it left some space for 50 years, some so and so, some text here. So that's how you define your block quotes, some quotations on your website. Okay, and then you have your Q element, basically adds quotation marks on your browser. Okay, you say Q, end of Q. So when it renders this particular text, it will put the double quotes. Okay, so let's take a look at that as well. I don't know if you can see that well. Here I have double quotes, and at the end I have a closing double quote as well. Okay, it puts them inside a double quote. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. We'll talk about the rest of the other HTML topics in our next session.